Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanMuscle.com. Today we're taking a closer look at and listening to, as well as installing, the Borla Stinger S-Type catback exhaust with chrome tips, available for the 2018 and newer Mustang GT without active exhaust. Now, full disclosure guys, if you're the one with the active exhaust, this one's not going to be for you, but there's a ton of options in the category. Also, the sound clips you're hearing for this one, this is my buddy Justin's 2019 GT. It is a 10-speed auto and does not have active on it, so that's what you're hearing in our sound clips. You hear a little bit in the normal drive mode as well as some in sport mode. Of course, that changes the downshifts, how long the shifts are held, how long the gears are held rather. So that also affects the sound clip, so keep that in mind. This might sound a little bit different than a sound clip you'd hear on a 6-speed. With all of that in mind, if you just saw that sound clip there, I'm gonna give this one 4 out of 5 on our loudness meter. Now stick with me. Historically, I have given the Borla Stinger S-Type 3 out of 5 on previous gens, but on the new gen S550 with the 5-liter, this thing is a lot rowdier than I remember. 4 out of 5 on the loudness means it is a lot more street friendly. It's not completely overwhelming like you'd get from a 5 out of 5. It's definitely got its louder portions, especially at wide open throttle at redline, so you'll hear that in the sound clip there. But overall, it's not gonna blow your eardrums out inside the car or outside, but it's gonna let everybody around you know that you mean business. Now, on the other hand, if you like 5 out of 5, there's a Borla Attack option. If you want something a little bit less, the Borla Touring option. So Borla has a couple of options for everyone. Now at idle, it's definitely gonna have a deep throaty rumble as well as through the lower portion of the RPM band. Once you hit the midsection and the top end, it's really gonna start opening up. It's gonna get a lot louder, a lot throatier. You might hear a little bit more rasp involved thanks to that X pipe that it's including, deleting that factory resonator. And at wide open throttle, it's really all out noise. Now, it's definitely gonna be one of the street-friendly options from Borla, but still a little bit more on the aggressive side. Once you get into Borla Attack, that's where things get pretty overwhelming and very loud. So if you're looking to stay away from that, the Stinger is your really good mid-road option. It's made of a complete 304 stainless steel, mandrel bent tubing, 3-inch diameter. It's gonna have chrome dual tips on each side. So it's retaining that quad tip that you expect from the 18 and newer or the S550s. So that's a really good option I like to see here. And if you're not a fan of the flashy chrome, there is a black chrome option as well. Now it's still pretty reflective, but it does add that stealth to the rear end. So it's all up to personal preference. I personally, on the Oxford White Mustang here, I like the chrome look. But of course, on different colors, it really comes down to personal preference. Now, this entire option here is coming in right around $1,500, a little over the $1,500 mark, and really that's a price tag you expect when you're talking about Borla. Borla is known to be one of the more premium options in the category, so they sit at the top end of the pricing spectrum, which I personally don't mind. I'm a huge fan of the Borla exhaust. I like the quality of their materials. They make the install very simple with easy slip-on clamps. Everything fits perfectly in my experience, so I really like them. No cutting or anything like that involved, so expect the install to get 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. Now, the reason I'm not giving it 1 out of 3 is 1 out of 3 is pretty much reserved for stick-on parts or cold air intakes. Very simple bolt-ons. Well, this is a simple bolt-on. It is a little bit more involved under the car. Now, it does come off all in one piece. I'll show you guys every step of the process there. If you're working by yourself, it definitely can be a little bit trickier than working with a friend, but you know, that's all up to your experience. So 2 hours from start to finish. I'm gonna show you every step. Let's get to it. Tools used in this install include an impact gun or a ratchet, an extension, 13 and 15 millimeter deep sockets, flathead screwdriver, and a mallet. Now the first step of the uninstall here under our 2019 GT is to loosen up both of the band clamps holding your stock exhaust to the headers. Now what we're gonna do is grab a 15 millimeter deep socket and loosen up the 2 bolts here and on the second one. Now we're not gonna fully remove them, just get them loosened up so we'll be able to slide the rest of the exhaust out of place. Now Now the next step here is to go right under your cross member here, and we're gonna remove the brackets holding our factory hangers to the frame. Now these are 13mm bolts. You have the option of sliding the hangers out of these brackets, but I find it to be way easier to just grab an extension and my 13mm deep socket and get these bolts removed. Go right on over the rear sway bar. Just pull those bolts out. You want to keep these because we're going to have to reuse those once we install our next exhaust. Now with those bolts removed, these brackets are actually hooked on to this cross member. So we're going to lift up and just unhook them and just rotate it down out of the way. Same thing on both sides. With the clamps by your factory manifolds or your headers loosened up, we've got the frame disconnected from those brackets on the hangers. At this point, we're gonna disconnect the stock exhaust from the headers, and I got my buddy Scott here to help me lower it down. If you're working on the ground on jack stands, it's gonna be a little bit easier for you to do by yourself, but since we're so high up in the air, you're gonna wanna have a buddy with you if you're working on a lift. So once we get these disconnected, we're just gonna slide the whole factory exhaust out of the hangers by the exhaust tips toward the front of the vehicle, then we'll be able to set it aside. On these clamps, there's a little bit of a tab holding this on, so you might need to grab a flathead and just peel up on that locking tab that holds it in position. So we finally got our factory exhaust off of my buddy Justin's 2019 GT. It's on the ground here next to our Borla Stinger S-Type. I want to take you guys through some of the similarities, but mainly the big differences between the two kits, and trust me, there is a pretty good amount. Starting at the front end of the vehicle on our factory exhaust, you're seeing that we have that factory resonator in place where the mid-pipe is. That's going to mute some of the sound, honestly dilute some of that power, and it's going to rob some of the airflow and add some restriction. Swapping that over to your aftermarket X-Pipe is going to do wonders for not only power but also sound. Now the X-Pipe has that crossover midsection, which means the airflow has no restrictions. It has a free-flowing cross through, which is unlike the factory resonator and unlike aftermarket H-Pipes, which would have a crossover section which would add some airflow restrictions. So the X-Pipe is known to be a lot more free-flowing, giving you a slightly raspier and slightly louder volume for sound, but also giving you a bump in horsepower and torque because of the no kink restriction. Moving on from there, you're seeing 3-inch mandrel bent tubing, also 304 stainless. So it's gonna be the highest quality materials on the market. Borla is known to have one of the more premium constructions, one of the more premium materials as well. So guys located in wintry weather areas like we are here on the East Coast, you're seeing a lot of road salt in those winter months. This will be a lot more durable in those wintry months because we all know salt can take a toll on the underbody of your vehicle, especially the exhaust. So factory exhaust, a little more susceptible to corrosion and rust than your 304 stainless. Moving on from there, you'll see a couple of the biggest differences between the old exhaust and the new exhaust and some of the other Borlas. So this being the Stinger S-Type is that middle of the line option from Borla, right? They have the Touring, the Stinger, and then the Attack. Attack being the loudest, Touring being the most mellow, this kind of being that middleman. That's gonna be thanks to thing number one, the S-Type muffler, and thing number two, the little resonators right behind the muffler under your rear subframe. Now, what this basically means is this is the Sport, or the Stinger Sport S-Type, being, you know, a lot more street friendly, a lot more drivable for the daily commuter. It's not really droney at highway speeds, but it lets everybody know it's aftermarket, still giving you a nice, deep, throaty tone without being overwhelming. That's also going to be thanks to your resonator here. This resonator is keeping those high frequencies at bay, which is not something you'd find on the Attack level. The Attack level would have the Attack muffler and no resonators on the piping. So this adds a little bit more mute to the higher frequencies. So that's why it becomes a little more drivable, a little less overwhelming, and something that's a little more at bay, but still aggressive. So those bigger differences come in with the muffler and the resonator, whereas the factory exhaust has a lot more baffling in the muffler, muting that sound, but also has the resonator toward the front end, which is a lot larger. So there are some similarities, but also a couple of differences there. Just know that the Stinger is gonna be your street-friendly option while still giving you the aggressive, throaty tone. Now, the tips cap everything off, so at the rear end, the factory tip are very thin, hard slash-cut tips, have that polished stainless steel, but they're not really chromed up. They're not really polished to make it look as attractive as possible. The Borla tips here are dual 4-inch 304 stainless steel, also slash cut, but a lot thicker. I'd say at least a 1/4 inch thicker than your factory exhaust tips. Does look a lot better coming out the rear. They look a lot bulkier, a lot beefier, and a lot more aggressive, but also a lot more polished. It's more of a show car finish at the rear. If you like a stealthier finish, they do have black tip or black chrome options available to fit your preference, so whatever you like, they definitely have options. I personally like this a lot more than the factory exhaust, and you'll see on car, of course, judge for yourself. We do have to transfer over a couple more things. These clamps at the front end, we're gonna transfer over from here to our factory manifold, and then our hanger brackets. Those will go straight over to our new exhaust pipe. So first things first, let's transfer those over, and then we'll tackle the clamps. All right, now getting these off, I'm gonna use a hanger removal tool. I find it to be a little bit easier here. WD-40 can also help you out if they're getting stuck. What we're basically gonna do is pop these factory hanger brackets off of the factory hangers. Just gonna pinch, pop them straight off. All right, now we can transfer them over. When you're putting these back on the new hangers, you want to make sure this tab at the top is facing the front of the vehicle. Once you have it on, just rotate them down and out of the way. Now transferring these band clamps over, you're just going to remove them from the factory exhaust, pop them right off. Now you want to make sure you're aligning this little tab here, the welded on little button on your factory manifolds. I'll show you guys that here. Basically gonna slide these back into place, all the way back, and just seat this locking tab right behind. Now when you're installing your Borla X pipe, you want to take note of these adapters here on the inlet side. These are basically going to be used when you're using your factory manifolds, your factory headers. If you're using aftermarket long tubes or aftermarket shorty headers, remove these and just use the straight X pipe. What that basically does is this adapts it to the down step that you'll need for your factory headers. So we're going to leave them on since our 2019 here is using those factory manifolds. And we're going to put clamps over the end here. Now we'll tighten these down in just a little bit. We want to install the X pipe first. So you're basically just going to slide these right on into those clamps. And we're going to tighten these down with a 15 socket. All right, hold your X pipe up, seat it all the way back, tighten these down. Now you can rotate these clamps up and into position, tighten those down as well with the same socket. Now we're going to start on our exhaust pipe for the passenger side with the resonator on it. Make sure you have your bracket already lined up there. You want to have a clamp inserted over the exhaust pipe at the inlet side. And we're going to set it in place on the X pipe. Now you don't want to seat it all the way back. Just close out that little slit so there's no exhaust leaks. Line up your hanger under the subframe. Rotate this clamp up and we're going to get this nice and snug. I recommend not tightening down the clamps completely. Leave a little bit of room for adjustment until the end. All right, now you do the same thing for the other side. Now for these exhaust hangers, you're basically going to rotate these upward and reconnect them to the open slot on the subframe. And make sure they're sitting straight. Grab those factory 13mm bolts, thread them in by hand, just a couple of threads. Grab your 13mm deep socket and extension and tighten those down over top of the rear sway bar. Now a good indicator that you're in a good spot is when these are completely straight. Now for the muffler, you want to insert the hanger first, slide that into place, line the tips up, and then connect the pipe. Make sure you have a clamp on the end here before you get started. All right, seat that, align the tips where you want them, rotate your clamp upward, and get that nice and snug. Grab your 15 socket again, and tighten down this clamp. Repeat for the other side. Now make any adjustments that you need to, go back and tighten everything down. All right, that's gonna wrap up my review, sound clip, and install of the Borla Stinger S-Type for the 18 and newer GT without active exhaust with chrome tip. Now if you wanna pick this up, it comes in right around $1,500 bucks. You can get yours right here at AmericanMuscle.com.